Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rabbi Stephen, Rabbi Shmuel, that's Rashbi, Rabbi Shmuel ben Yehoshua, and it's this week's 10-minute Torah. So, as you can see, a little bit casual today. Um, Came into the synagogue and broke down the sukkah, took it down. We're leaving the table and chairs available for in case there's some overflow for the book fair that we're having. But we did break down the Sukkot, and there is actually a little prayer, a little blessing that you say when you are saying goodbye to the Sukkot. I went ahead and did that, even though it's a little late, but you know what they say, better late than never. I don't know that there's a time limit or a statute of limitations on saying the blessing, but taking down the Sukkot, let's say a blessing, and basically what we're saying is we enjoy being there. Look forward to next year in Jerusalem, that type of thing. So just wanted to be a little casual with you today. Speaking of which, hope you all enjoyed the high holidays. You know, we put a lot of, it's not just me. We put a lot of effort into making the service inspirational, meaningful, relevant, because that's the way Judaism really needs to be. And quite frankly, that's the way it is. It's not a history lesson, reading the Torah and finding out who these wonderful people are that got this great idea that there's only one God and that people should be nice to each other and respect each other. There's a lot more to it. As we saw last week with Bereshit, you know, you have this divine being, this unique, this one, this being that we twice a day proclaim as the only supreme being that created the universe that there is, right? So that's really what it's all about. Uh, and we enjoyed that with our Simchat Torah celebration. Thank you for everybody that came out. It was a beautiful celebration. We marched around with the Torahs, and everybody got a chance to hold, and we sang, and we clapped, and we drummed, and it was a good time. No, we didn't have a morning service, which would have been good, but you know, it was just a judgment call on my part. Didn't think there'd be a lot of people there, and you know, a lot of people got a lot out of it that night anyway. So we'll move on. So, talking about this week's Torah portion, which is Noah. So we're in the triennial year one, and in triennial year one, we read the first part of the parsha. And the next year, triennial two, we read the middle part, et cetera, et cetera. So, how does Noah start? First of all, we were introduced to Noah at the end of last week's portion. There's a genealogy, right? And the genealogy basically is to show the flow of the development of this thing that we today call Judaism, but it's also to give a little bit of validity to the fact that this isn't just a fairy tale, as some people might suppose. Um, Animals marching two by two into this big wooden boat on their own. You know, animals have, as one comedian put it, brains the size of marbles. Like they're gonna think, "Oh wow, it's starting to rain. Better get into the ark." No, it's just that you know it was God's will that species should be saved. Um, but so we're introduced to Noah, and as it says at the beginning of the portion, Noah was righteous in his generation. So the Torah is two things. It is sparse on words, very economical in their descriptions and their discussions. And number two, sometimes it's a little obtuse. You know, God says, come on, come figure it out. It's like a little puzzle. You know, and in figuring out, in thinking about it, in analyzing it, in looking deep into it, looking for those meanings. That's kind of, in a way, how we evolve spiritually by looking deeper and deeper into the Torah and gleaning more and more meaning from Torah. So, what does it mean? Noah was righteous in his generation. Some sages, and there's always differing opinions, and that's the beauty of Judaism. Which one is right? You decide. You decide which one you want to accept. Not believe, accept. Two very valid points of view. The first point of view is that everybody else was wicked. Now, what was so wicked about people that God thought he was going to just flood them out? people would start breaking the law a little bit, doing little pilfering things, taking things from people when they weren't looking, you know. Then nobody was getting in trouble. Now, we know that there are some people that have this abstract reasoning. They know that, it's your stuff, I shouldn't touch it because it's not mine. Plain and simple, right? The next level before that is this concrete thinking. Whereas if I take it, somebody might see me and I'll get in trouble. So first we have people that have this sense of morality and integrity. I want to do what's right for society so people can go exist. Other people think, it's just the threat of punishment that keeps them at bay. Okay, fair enough. So people started doing things so that they were getting away with it, did a little bit more. The courts kind of turned their back at the time, turned their back. It wasn't worth it. Next thing you know, people are robbing people. Burglary is taking something of somebody. Robbery is when you're actually going to somebody with some type of weapon or some type of threat and saying, give me this or else, right? That's robbery. And that's basically what was starting to happen. People were starting to rip people off. And there was no conscience. They didn't care. Now, were they killing people for their stuff? Maybe. You would think that maybe that was it. Otherwise, why would God bother? He might just, empower some people to come and take care of it. But if it got that serious, if people had absolutely no conscience and and the things were more important than the actual people that had the things, now you've got an issue. So Noah was, of course, not like that. He was by himself. He didn't want to associate with those people. He saw a different way, and God singled him out as being the righteous person of his generation. Other sages turn around and say, well, he was righteous in his generation. Had he been in the generation of Abraham or Isaac or Jacob or Moses or Aaron or David or any of those people or Samuel, maybe he might not have stood out so much. So, it's a matter of relativity, of relationship. He wasn't that righteous, but he was righteous for the situation he was in. And maybe some of you are counting the amount of times I say, starting to realize I'm getting into that habit. So, okay. So, which was it? Your choice. The point is that mankind had gotten so immoral and so debased and so criminal that God just wanted to wipe them out and basically start over again. And he's going to start out with Noah. Now, Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, and purportedly, each one of those sons is the ancestor, father, whatever, however you want to describe it, as one of the peoples. So Shem was the father of those from the Middle East, Ham, Africa, and specifically Canaan, and he was kind of the evil of the 3. And Japheth was really kind of the father of Europe, and I believe the Greeks and Romans as well, even though, you had Edom, who the Romans and the Greeks descended from Edom or Esau. So he lands with, after being, being tossed around as the heavens opened up and the rains came down, and some people even think that the water came from the earth as well. So there was no escaping it. People died, and the waters had risen far above the highest mountain at the time, Mount Ararat. So there was no place to go. People drowned. People and animals drowned. Fish didn't. Fish. What about the animals? Well, supposedly the animals were attacking people. They were evil too. They kind of took part in this whole evilness, so they were destroyed as well. That's why that's why Noah needed to rescue at least 2 of each species. So besides the 2 of each species, there were 7 pairs of what would later become kosher. So you might be thinking, well, we don't have the kosher laws yet. No. But remember, Torah has always been around, always. Right? Torah isn't just some book. Torah is God's teaching, and God's teaching has been around forever. It's just that when our patriarchs, Jacob, especially coming down to Jacob, he had 12 sons who became the fathers of the 12 tribes, the 12, some people say, separate nations. So, and those nations became peoples. And those peoples needed some type of organization and discipline. Hence, we're going to write down the 10 Commandments, starting with the big 10. And then we're going to drill down a little bit and get some of the little ones. And then we get the Talmud. And now we've got an orderly society. So, but this is just us putting all this into writing. Remember, Talmud was started out as an oral tradition passed down from master to student. Later on, they decided they were going to write it down since we were being attacked and dispersed, and they wanted to make sure we had a record of it. So, all right, so that's Noah. Join us this Saturday for Noah, and Judy will be doing her monthly reading of the Haftarah. Looking forward to that. Thank you again to everybody that came and took part in our high holidays, especially Simchat Torah. We got a month of Mar Cheshvan is coming up soon. We have nothing going on, which I think we need a little bit of a rest. And then Hanukkah is about 6 weeks away. And then we have Tu B'Shvat, we have Purim, Passover, and the beat goes on. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you for listening.